Alright, in this video we're going to talk about how one decision completely changed this man's life and how the same framework has been applied to my life and how taking initiative has changed my life as well. So this video comes from the movie Flamin' Hot, which follows the story of Richard Montanez, a previously janitor at Frito-Lay, who then became the director of international marketing for Frito-Lay, and his kind of career upbringing and his story of how he went from being a janitor to basically a multi-millionaire. This resembles something that I have found in my life and something that I've done, and so I want to tell you both about the movie, encourage you to watch it, show how it's been applied to my life, and kind of next steps from there for the audience. So my name is Will, and if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So here's the movie. It's called Flamin' Hot, and it follows the story of Richard Montanez, who is kind of in the Reagan era. Kind of economics in the United States are not super great. He's coming from a Latino background where he was raised with a family that, wasn't able to kind of allow him to complete high school, and he didn't go to college, and kind of is in this place where he has a family of his own. He's kind of making way by doing, selling drugs and kind of hustling, but he's really trying to make something of himself and provide for his family. Lo and behold, through some networking in the local gang community, he gets a job at Frito-Lay, in which he tells the recruiter who sees his resume, can tell he's lying, hey, I'm going to be the hardest working employee you've ever had. I'm really passionate about this. I want to, join Frito-Lay and make a difference. And so he ends up getting hired to this job at Frito-Lay as a janitor and does everything he can to be the best employee that Frito-Lay has ever seen. And this is all context just from the movie. I'm sure there's going to be data inaccuracies and some misses here, but for the point of the story, everything is based on the Flamin' Hot movie. So he gets this job, he's this janitor, and instead of just kind of signing up for the job and doing the bare minimum, he ends up going above and beyond. He's cleaning in places where people normally don't clean. He's coming to work every day with a ton of energy, and he starts to notice that people around him have different roles, and he's trying to figure out how he can move up within this factory that he works in. And so he kind of talks to some of the people around him that are, his friends, other janitors, some of the people on like the bottom of the ladder at this factory, and he's asking them, hey, like, why don't you guys talk to, the mechanics, the people that work on the machines? Like, why do you guys just kind of stay as janitors? And most of the kind of consensus around this is no, stay in your place, like, don't talk to those people, they don't want anything to do with you. And that's not entirely incorrect. He tries to kind of talk to this guy named Clarence C., or Charisma Baker, who's like the know-it-all of the building. He's been working there for 15 years, is an absolute expert, and Richard starts trying to get friendly with him to kind of move up and learn more about how the factory works, because he's genuinely curious about it and passionate and wants to make a difference. And at first, Clarence is kind of like, what do you want from me? I don't want to talk to you, like, go away. But he, Richard keeps making friends with him, ends up giving him a burrito in the movie where they kind of have this friendship moment. And then all of a sudden, Clarence starts teaching Richard all the things about the building. And over time, the economy starts to worsen, the environment is changing, people are getting less motivated to come to work, and through this kind of 10-year stretch of Richard working at Frito-Lay, all of a sudden, things are getting really tense, and where people are getting laid off, there's a competing factory down the road that they now have to compete for jobs on, and the CEO of Frito-Lay from the top wants to make a change. And so he makes this video kind of speaking to the employees that are at the bottom in the factory saying, hey, we're going through a hard time right now, but I want the employees to know that it's the blue-collar folks in the factory that are making a difference and that are keeping this company afloat. So take initiative and really, be inspired to make change. Now, the movie shows Richard seeing this video in like a cafeteria lunchroom where they kind of zoom in super close to his face, and a almost lightning bolt idea kind of comes to him, and Richard decides after 10 or so years of working at this factory, he's going to make a change and he's going to make a difference. And so Richard goes home and he starts mixing snacks with these kind of unseasoned, unflavored Cheetos and Doritos and other things of that variety from Frito-Lay, and mixes it with kind of like a Latino blend of spice that he's trying to craft from his local community, and try and make a snack that he thinks the people like him would really enjoy. And so as a result of this, he makes what would then become Flamin' Hot Cheetos, or the the dust that kind of goes on the Cheetos, and he wants to pitch this to his plant manager. And so he goes to the plant manager, he goes to some of the people he's working with, and he's like, hey, I have this idea, I really want to make a difference. And they basically all shut him off. They're like, nope, like, no, who cares about what the CEO said, don't listen to that, like, do your job and stop kind of bringing this up. Now, Richard doesn't take no for an answer. He breaks into the management office, he finds the phone book of the office of getting to the CEO, and he makes a call to the CEO, who then he kind of gets on the secretary, goes on this long speech of how he has an idea that's going to revolutionize the company, and he really needs to speak to Roger Enrico. And so all of a sudden he gets through to the CEO and he pitches this idea, and the CEO of the company loves the idea so much, and he's so excited that someone is taking the initiative to make change, that he says, all right, we're going to come out there and listen to you and hear you out and kind of build this. Now, Richard has no experience doing sales or doing data visualization or marketing or any of this stuff, and so these big execs come to the plant, they hear him out, and Richard's speech is just all about the passion he's put into this, how he thinks it's really going to revolutionize the game, and how the CEO has to listen to him, basically. And so he decides to greenlight the project. They end up testing it out. It kind of gets assigned to someone who does a kind of a poor job of doing the rollout in California, where this factory is located, and the sales are not doing well. So not only did Richard get his idea approved, now he's got it in production, it's on shelves, and the movie depicts how it's not actually doing as well as they thought it would. But Richard doesn't think that's because of the product, he thinks it's because people don't know about it. And so he takes matters into his own hands and starts giving out the product for free. He rallies the factory he works with around to kind of distribute these products and get them in the hands of the people that he thinks would enjoy them the most. And lo and behold, the product ends up becoming super successful. It's one of Frito-Lay's most successful products, and it has been for a long time. And Richard Montanez ends this story as a multi-millionaire. And so watching this movie, I was inspired to make a video about taking initiative, because this is something that I have applied in my own life, and that I've had similar, life-changing results because of just kind of taking my own life into my own hands and kind of fighting for what I think would be great. And so I've mentioned this many times on my YouTube channel and talking about my career journey, and I highly recommend you subscribe if you're into this type of stuff. But basically, I was in a situation where I was working at a big company, but in a warehouse, and I was doing operations work, kind of manual labor, very similar to Frito-Lay and this janitor role, or other types of roles like that at Frito-Lay. And what ended up happening is the company started paying for college, so I re-enrolled in a finance degree while I was kind of running my own business with Pokemon cards and working at this place at the same time. And then all of a sudden what happened is my manager ended up leaving, and I was kind of uncertain about, do I really want to continue doing this type of work? 6 months from now, I told myself I'd go back to school, and I really, really wanted to kind of get some hands-on experience with finance, as I had no experience, basically outside of failing to trade stocks and cryptocurrency outside of work, other than that, and had no real job experience with finance. And so I kind of did some searching on our internal wikis, very similar to how Richard ended up finding the number of the CEO, and I found the name of the program lead for the student programs. And the reason I found his name is because the student programs at this company weren't accepting internal candidates, they were only accepting external candidates. And so instead of allowing that to kind of be a no in my journey, I decided to take matters into my own hands and shoot the program manager of this program an email saying, hey, my name is Will, I'm super passionate about this, I'm studying finance outside of work, I run my own business, and I'd really like to get some experience. Do we have any ways that as an internal candidate I can apply to this program? And really quickly, within a couple hours, he got back to me and said, hey Will, absolutely, I would love to kind of get on a call with you, learn more about you, kind of hear what's going on, and kind of learn how we can try and make this work, maybe get you an interview. And so after taking the call with him, I kind of demonstrated similarly what Richard did. Hey, I'm really passionate about this, I want to, even though I have zero experience, I'm going to work super hard, I want to learn about this stuff, and I'm really passionate about finance and business, I'd love to apply that to this company as well. And then I was given the opportunity to interview, ended up getting the role, and that kind of single decision to reach out to that program lead ended up changing my life, in that I don't work in that warehouse anymore. I work, corporate finance, I'm a senior finance analyst, and I would not likely be in this position if I didn't make that decision back then to kind of take control of my own destiny, take the initiative, and reach out to that person and try and, make an idea. And so I found a lot of parallels of Richard's story and the thing that I did to kind of change my career trajectory that I think is super valuable for the listeners and the viewers of this video to kind of take away. No matter what hand you're dealt, you're ultimately able to make the most of your situation and take matters into your own hands. Just because there's rules and guidelines about things that are, published doesn't mean that's the way of law, unless it's literally the law, and then you should probably be careful. But this is a great way to take risk, lean into things that you're super interested and super passionate about and kind of see where it takes you, because you will never know what is possible without taking the initiative to change the situation you're in. And both Richard's story and my story are great examples of that. So if you enjoyed the video, I'll see you on the next one. Be sure to check out my video on how I lost 200 pounds, and I'll see you all next time. See you guys.